Hey there Internet, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to have a look at a crash course in Siteswap. So, what is Siteswap? Siteswap is a juggling notation system that allows you to describe complex patterns in a simple and concise way. The basic notation for Siteswap was invented around 1985 by 3 separate jugglers, kind of independently. There was Bruce Timon in Caltech, there was Paul Kilman in Santa Cruz, and Mike Day in Cambridge, who all came up with very similar juggling notation systems that all, became Siteswap together. It was originally known as quantum juggling, or the Cambridge notation. So first of all, what exactly is Siteswap? Siteswap is a juggling notation system that uses numbers to describe different throws. Each number represents the number of beats the ball will be in the air before being thrown again. So for example, a 3 is going to be thrown, caught, and then thrown again 3 beats later in the pattern. So essentially, the higher the number, the longer the ball stays in the air. Today we're going to be looking at basic or vanilla Siteswap. Vanilla Siteswap has some limitations. We're not really going to talk about them right now. We're just going to go over the basics. But the thing you need to remember is that for all of this, we are thinking about one juggler juggling a pattern where the balls are thrown asynchronously. So it's like left, right, left, right, left, right. You're never going to go right, right, or left, left sort of thing. And all of the throws are happening independently. So you're never doing 2 throws at the same time. Okay, so just diving into it then, I think the best way to start visualizing what the numbers actually mean is to use a 3-ball cascade as our example. So here we go. This is our 3-ball cascade. It is the most simple way to juggle 3 balls with them all being thrown at the same height and in a consistent rhythm. We can see from this that if we take, say, the orange ball, and it's being thrown, 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 and we count the beats, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We can see that it's being thrown and caught every 3rd beat. That's what makes this throw a 3. If we want to think about it like that, our 3 is going to be a crossing throw that is at the height that you can juggle a 3-ball cascade. So if we take the same logic and apply it to 4 balls, and so we've got our 4-ball fountain here, which is the simplest way that you can juggle 4 balls with having them all at the same height. And we take our orange ball and count this one out, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got that same thing going with it, but with 4s. So a 4 is going to look like this. It is a throw that it stays in the same hand. We can take this same logic and apply it to 5 balls, 6 balls, 7 balls to get 5s, 6s, 7s, and so on. So the rule that you end up with, though, is odd numbers always cross from one hand to the other, and even numbers always stay in the same hands. And basically, as you go up the numbers, it just gets higher and higher. 5, for example, is going to also be a crossing throw, and if our 3 is at that height, our 5 is going to be higher, so that height, because it is going to be the same as the simplest way to juggle our 5-ball cascade. Just to recap the rule here, odd numbers always cross from one hand to the other, even numbers always stay in the same hand, and then the higher the number, the more time it's going to have in the air. So like 3, 4, 5. I don't have enough height here for 6s, but you get the idea. And so then we have the slightly stranger numbers, 0, 1, and 2. They actually also follow this rule and the same kind of logic. You just got to think about it a little bit weirder. So imagine, so a 0 is basically an empty hand for a beat. So if you want to think about it, if I'm going to be juggling a pattern and I'm going to be going right, left, right, left, right, left, but I have 0 balls, each 0 is going to be ba, 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 ba. Again, it's just always empty hands. A 1 then is a small throw back and forth. And so you can imagine, how would you get 1 ball to go between your hands, because it is an odd number, so it crosses, while also being able to be thrown every beat. So the only way to do it is a zap back and forth. It was one, bam, 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 bam. So this is a 1. It is a quick, just right across the bottom, shortest path between the two hands. A 2 is generally just holding the ball in your hand for a beat, because you can have one ball in each hand, and that's how you would kind of juggle 2 balls between 2 hands. There is the type of 2 where you can also do a small throw, and it needs to be a really small throw here because it needs to be ready and caught again for the next throw. This is known as an active 2, or notated sometimes as 2T. These can be interchangeable for a hold on any 2. However, quite often they will make the pattern you're trying much harder. So for this basic one, we're pretty much just going to have 2s as a hold. After 9, it changes slightly. So instead of 10, 11, 12, we start using letters to describe the throws. So A, B, C, D, and so on. This is just to save the confusion when writing down Siteswaps, because generally it is just numbers in a row. We don't have spaces in between the numbers, so like 4, 2, 3. There aren't spaces in between the numbers. When it's spoken, obviously 4, 2, 3, very distinct. But when writing it, 10 could be could be read as 1, 0, or 11 could be 1, 1, rather than 10 or 11. So using A, B, C, and so on helps to differentiate that. This obviously leads to some entertaining names of tricks. For example, the aspirational 7-ball trick of DB97531. The last thing to keep in mind when looking at Siteswaps in the notation system before we go on to doing actual tricks with them, because don't worry, we're going to do some actual tricks as well. The heights of your throws are always relative to each other within a single Siteswap. What I mean by that is a 3 does not always have to be this height. You can have a 3 at this height and it still is a 3 as long as the rest of the throws in your trick are staying on that same rhythm and maintaining that logic. So this can be 3s. I can do 3s at this height. I can also do 3s at this height. So another example, just to illustrate this point, is we're going to use 4, 2, 3 here. Boom, boom, boom. So this is 4, 2, 3 at this height, but this is also 4, 2, 3 up here. All the throws are in the same proportions as each other, and it maintains its beat, but all that's going to happen is as your throws get higher, is the beat is going to get slower. Okay, so let's move on to having a look at some common Siteswap patterns. Cascade here is a nice and obvious one. This is 3. It could also be notated as 3, 3, 3 because you have 3 balls. However, if the pattern is just the same all the way through, so 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, instead of writing it out in a long form, we just shorten it to 3. So the simplest repeat of the pattern. So one of the big limitations with Siteswap is there are a whole range of things it doesn't take into account. It just assumes you have got the most simple and basic version of the trick. My example for this is the iconic pattern, Mill's Mess. Boom. This one here, your arms are crossing back and forth. It all looks crazy. However, the Siteswap for this is 3. It is the exact same Siteswap as the cascade, because the balls are being thrown and caught in the same timing. As well as Mill's Mess, we can take something like Boston's Mess here, where it's again doing all sorts of crazy things. The balls are going up and down in columns, but once again, the Siteswap for this trick is also 3. So with basic Siteswap, it doesn't take into account the mode that your trick is in. What this does also mean though, which is kind of cool, is that when you start learning tricks with Siteswap, there are a whole bunch of different modes that you can do your Siteswaps in. For example, we have 4, 2, 3 in its normal setting here. We could also do 4, 2, 3 with outside throws. We could do 4, 2, 3 in a mess configuration, which is this kind of a false mess that's kind of cool. So let's have a look at some interesting site swaps that you can try yourself. My absolute favorite one here is 423, which is this one here. So you can see the white ball here that's crossing. This is the 3 each time. The orange and red balls going up the sides are alternating between the 4s when it's thrown up in the air and the 2s when it's being held down in the hand at the offside, giving them a little shake there just to like help out with that one. The reason I really like 423 is there's a ton of variations with it. You can do it in columns. You can do it with like the 3s going over the top as a kind of like tennis-y thing. But then there's also all sorts of fun ones you can do with like active 2s. I don't think we're going to dig too much further into 423 variations today because I think I'm going to do a whole video on them in the future. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Moving on though, the next one we're going to look at is 441. So this 441 is kind of like an asynchronous box. You can see here that the balls change positions each time. So unlike 423, we don't have a single ball that stays the 1. And the thing to really notice here is the 1 becomes the first 4 of the next part of it. And you can start really simply with this one by thinking of the 4s first. So it's going to go 4, 4, 1. And it's going to go up, up, pass. Up, up, pass. And then starting the other side, so up, up, pass. The thing to keep in mind though is the 1 coming across is going to be the first 4 of the next side. So putting it together, 4, 4, 1, 4, 4, 1, 4, 4, 1, 4, 4, 1, 4, 4, 1, 4, 4, 1. There we go. Next up, we're going to look at 531. So 531 is the 3-ball version, the little baby in the family of those beautiful tricks that have that like halo moment up at the top. So DB97531, as we saw earlier. The way we're going to go about doing this is our 3s here. Our 5 is going to go much higher, and then our 3-1 across the bottom. And it's got this kind of feel. You know, that classic 2-ball thing that a lot of beginner jugglers want to do. Here's the use for it. Boom. So, putting it together, we end up with 531. Boom. This one to start with is going to be quite difficult to run. Quite a lot of this is because of the height differences. The height difference between your 5 and your 3 needs to be quite precise in order for it to get a nice rhythm and run consistently. Quite a lot of this is probably because your 3s are too big. So in order to run it at the kind of height that I'm at with a roof here, you're going to have to keep your 3s quite low. So it more like probably about this height. There we go. The last site swap we're going to talk about today is 45123. So it looks like this. One, this is kind of a fun trick. It's got like a funky look to it. And 2, I also think it demonstrates something actually kind of interesting, is that there are multiple ways you can kind of think of this one. So you could think of it as 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. You could think of it as 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. You can also kind of think of this one as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the way I remember it, even though you cannot start juggling it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The only way to get into the pattern is by going from either the 3 or the 4, because either it's 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, or you could think of it as I'm already in my like 3-ball cascade, and to start it I'm going to go 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. As I said, I find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 an easier way to remember that one, and when someone says it I automatically go, oh yeah, cool, it starts from the 4 Both ways of writing it are technically correct though, so it's just something to keep in mind, that you can start site swaps from different positions sometimes. So that's kind of it for the video today. There's a lot of things we haven't talked about here, so there will be a part 2 to this with more advanced site swap, because there are a lot of limitations with vanilla site swap. You cannot do things where balls are thrown at the same time from multiple hands, so synchronous patterns such as box or like a sink shower. These cannot be notated using vanilla site swap. Other things you can't do, multiplexes. Anything with a multiplex cannot be notated with vanilla site swap. There are a bunch of other like site swap extensions, such as multi-hand notation, Preshak for doing partner passing. There are notations for multiplexes, there are notations for sync throws, there are notations for body throws, there are notations for modes of throwing. So yeah, that's us for today. Come join us in the next one for Siteswaps Part 2, and I'll see you there.